creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Oh my goodness. Why do they both have their eyes open?
These are some of my best things. This is a carpenter pencil. Makes sense. You know a carpenter pencil?
Sure.
But the middle is G10. Same thing as the punch knife. So it's for you go through metal detectors. A lot of guys carry them at airports. Fist size, so you could punch with it or kind of get a good with it if you wanted.
Okay, this was a weird but interesting episode. The guy talking is a veteran with PTSD. He struggles with addiction and had some crazy stories to tell. I watched the podcast.
This guy, this entity, this being, Zeus, was actually a real person. If you go back into the Babylonian cuneiform Sumerian tablets, you discover that Zeus is actually Enlil. Enlil is Zeus in Babylonian. This is thousands of years prior to the Greeks even having this guy show up. Enlil was so evil, when you look into the ancient Sumerian tablets, you find that when humans were populating the earth at a high speed, which he liked because he needed them as slaves, when they got too noisy, he would order them, this is carved in stone, guys, he would order them to be slaughtered en masse. Zeus, aka Enlil in ancient texts, because Enlil was also the god of Genesis that came into the garden and noticed that Adam and Eve had put clothes on, and they were consciously aware of who they were, and that they weren't animals, that they were really sentient beings. And he was about that. In the ancient text, he's known as Satan, the Lord of Eden. This guy is Satan, the devil himself. Okay? But he pretends to be a god, and he calls himself Yahweh in the modern day Bible.
No connection there. Weak attempt tried to connect everything to the Sumerian Zechariah Sitchin, which is the basis for this. It has been debunked. There's two angels of God guarding it. No one's going in there.
The scary thing is, if you're ever camping alone in the forest, if you ever hear animal sounds that are not quite right at night, you get up and leave. Because if they're getting close to you, they don't want you to hear human sounds, they'll start communicating in animal voices. There's a few guys that were out there, they started hearing like a laughing falcon sound. And then he heard the capuchins from different areas. He said he climbed into the river and crawled out of that.
There's no way I'm camping without my machete and shotgun.
And we pull up an image of it. It's very strange. They found a tablet that shows this list of kings and how long they reigned. The Sumerian kings list. Some of these kings reigned for like 40,000 years, 30,000 years, and then there's the Great Flood. And then after the Great Flood, there's like 50 years. They've run for 40 years. But all of the post-flood kings are correct. They resonate with other historical texts. But pre-flood is real weird. What are you talking about 40,000 years? Are you just making it up? Is it just a myth? And why is that also in the Bible? Like, why was Noah like 600 years old?
It was probably the way their calendar ran.
What if ancient civilizations were not just building monuments, they were building gateways? Hidden in the mountains of Peru, there is a mysterious stone doorway carved into solid rock. Locals call it Puerta de Hayu Marca, the gate of the gods. It does not lead to a room. It does not lead to a temple. It leads to nothing. A doorway to nowhere. But here is where the story becomes impossible to ignore. Legends say this was not a doorway for people to enter. It was a doorway for beings to arrive from another world. The Incas spoke of gods who traveled by shimmering portals of light, and this sight was believed to activate when a golden disc was placed into its center recess. A key, a frequency, a device. Tourists and researchers report strange effects near the structure. Electronics malfunction, compasses spin, and some say they hear whispers carried on the wind as if calling from the other side. In 1996, hikers claimed they saw a blue glow appear in the doorway before vanishing without a trace. The official explanation, optical illusion, the unofficial testimony, something walked through it, and here is the part that history cannot explain. Identical gates appear across the world, in Egypt, in India, in Sumerian ruins, even carved into remote desert canyons of the American Southwest. Different cultures, different continents, same design, same purpose, not tombs, not temples, technology. If ancient civilizations believed the gods traveled through portals, what if the gods were not myths? What if they were visitors? And these doorways are the leftover infrastructure of a forgotten transportation network.
What do you think the literal Stargate franchise was based off of?
What do you think happens
Yeah?
when a government takes everybody's currency in a country that has more guns and ammunition than anywhere else in the entire world?
I mean, as I've said a million
It
times,
works for a little bit. And then when the desperation kicks in, that shit doesn't work.
well, so that's exactly, we're saying the same thing. We're moving toward totalitarianism or revolution, violent revolution. By the way, if you tell people they can't say what they think and their vote doesn't matter,
That's it.
how many options have you left for them? Just one.
Not
Violence.
very many.
That's right. So don't do that. Don't do that.
He's not human.
Revolution.
Really?
He's something. They call him a jungle boy.
Only one man has indefinitely embraced this lifestyle, living in a way that maybe nobody else like him in America still does, removed from modern society. And in the most remote corner of the already very remote American territory of the Northern Mariana Islands, there is an island called Pagan, an active volcano, where one man has been living in isolation for the greater part of the last decade. Today,
Wow.
he's the only one living there full-time. Because you see, this island was once inhabited, but after several massive volcanic eruptions, people were forced to flee and have not been able to come back ever since. And as no story has ever been told about this incredible man, we have set sail onwards to go find him.
This is an amazing series, folks. Watch it.
In 1984, an 18-year-old girl was helping her father install a door in their basement. As she reached for a tool and turned her head, he attacked and pressed her with a cloth soaked in ether to her face. He then dragged her unconscious body and locked her underground behind a heavy soundproof steel door with no way out. He told everyone she had run away to join a cult. In reality, she was imprisoned just below their feet, where he would abuse her nearly every day. Over the next 24 years, Elizabeth gave birth to 7 of his children. 3 of them were taken upstairs and was raised by his wife, who believed that they were abandoned, while the other 3 were raised in total darkness. They lived without daylight or any contact with the outside world. But when one of the children, 19-year-old Kirsten, fell sick, Elizabeth begged her father to take the girl to the hospital. Doctors noticed something was wrong. The girl was malnourished, confused, and had no medical history. When Elizabeth was brought in to explain, she saw a chance, and she told them the truth. Within hours, police uncovered the hidden dungeon beneath his home, and Josef Fritzl was arrested and sentenced to life in prison.
Wow. Yep, this was a true story. It was on Lifetime. It was crazy. He most definitely was a very sick man.
You won't hear that on the news.
Operation Spiderweb, the Ukrainian operation where they snuck a bunch of drones into Russia and then used them to launch an attack. We are willingly importing Chinese drones that are internet connected and take instructions from the cloud. The threat surface area in the worst case scenario is really bad. So you saw the dock. That thing can be flown remotely and autonomously, and it's a network connected device. You can't hack into it, but ultimately you have to trust the person that's making it. DJI has a dock. Does it seem like a good idea to install dock drones all over our cities, all over our critical infrastructure that ultimately are running software on the drone that is controlled by an adversary? Chinese government at the end of the day has control over their companies, and whatever they tell them to do, they will do.
Unhinged Facts Part 16. For more than 2,000 years, kingdoms across South and Southeast Asia used one of the most terrifying execution methods ever recorded, death by elephant. These weren't ordinary elephants. They were specifically trained for the purpose to be able to crush, dismember, or torture on command. In India, the Mughal Empire used them publicly. A condemned person would be dragged into a square, crowds would gather, and a massive war elephant, often armored, would be led forward. With a single order, the elephant could crush the skull or chest instantly, break limbs one by one, or toss the victim in the air before finishing the execution. Some rulers used it as a warning, others used it as a spectacle. Foreign explorers described elephants trained so precisely they could push a prisoner on the ground and hold them there without killing them, only until the king decided the final blow. It was controlled, it was deliberate, and it was meant to remind everyone watching exactly who had power. Elephant execution was eventually outlawed under British rule in the 1800s, but for centuries, it was one of the most feared execution methods in the world.
That's crazy.
This emerald green tablet is for your consideration. It's a alleged ancient tablet that had been recovered in a cave near Michoacan, depicting a giant alien ship and quite a bit of activity on the ground. What do you think about this panel? Real or imitation?
The rancher didn't want to sell it, but what they did, and I know the people who did it, they set up the electromagnetic transdimensional phenomenon that then induced horrible phenomenon coming out of the ninth ring of hell, or out of lower frequency opening into other dimensions. It scared the hell out of this rancher, and he was scared off the ranch and sold. A similar thing happened, but it was more of a tax fraud scheme with the people who sold the Bradshaw Ranch, so that this cabal could acquire these sites where there was already some unusual phenomenon that they could then exploit in the research and the work they do. That's quite evil. It subsequently was bought by a businessman named Fugel, and I'm not sure he understands how the innate, let's call it intrinsic and indigenous phenomena that was there has gotten altered.
There's a term that got popularized at a Skinwalker Ranch called the hitchhiker effect. For those who don't know, it's when the phenomenon seems to follow you home. Is that a real effect, or is that also a psyop?
You know, I don't know, because I've never experienced that. We did do a CE5 expedition on a bluff overlooking Skinwalker, and we didn't have any of that happen. But of course, we're doing something in a very high state of consciousness, making contact. What we did here was sort of, at the wee hours, a continuous drilling sound underneath the earth. And I think there may be a black site being put in there underground.
Something is going on, but how does Dr. Greer have information to all the mysteries of life? I don't buy it.
For years, we believed the Egyptian and Mayan pyramids were the world's oldest. We were wrong. Deep in the jungle, a newly dated structure is forcing archaeologists to rewrite history. This colossal pyramid's foundation stones have been radiocarbon dated to a time before any known civilization.
Which jungle, where, and how old? Oh, by the way, we have pyramid older than the one in Egypt, in Indonesia. It's called Gunung Padang. Google it.
What if these are entities that are here on this earth, that have been on this earth, that who knows how long, and that we, you know, we think they're coming in from way out. Maybe they did millennia ago, but they're here and they're in these deep water areas. And that's why, I mean, like we say, we know more about the face of the moon than we do what's going on there. And we have a higher propensity of sightings around these 5 or 6, I believe, deep water areas. And so to me, it just, it creates a question there. And then when we have naval personnel telling me that we have these sightings and that there's these underwater craft they're chasing that are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little under 40 miles an hour. So I got a lot of questions about that stuff, and I mean...
Excuse me? The Epstein files are in the ocean? Did he say that? Yup, that's Indonesia right there. Look at that. Just some fallen angels.
I think they found the capstone to the Pyramid of Giza because look at this, y'all. What is this? This thing generates its own electricity when you put metal to it. Like to the point that it's like it wants to cook it, y'all. You see what I'm saying? Look at that. The needle, the point of the needle catches fire almost, like, y'all see that? And then when you put paper next to it, it catches on fire as well too. Look at this. And then it's got the pharaoh's head over here. Y'all see that, y'all? This can pass for Aztec or Mayan type of technology as well too. And then the scorpion on the other side. Y'all see the way that's eating the paper? What is it doing to the paper? It's like shredding it. Y'all see that? It's almost like turning the paper into snow. It's literally like shredding the paper. And is it me, or does it look like this thing is levitating? Like there's no space in between. What type of technology is this, y'all? And yeah, obviously I'm not saying this is the capstone of the Pyramid of Giza, but come on, y'all. This thing looks like it belongs on top of something ancient, y'all. It looks like it's supposed to be powering something. The way it's pulling energy straight out of the ethers like this. What's on the back of it? What's the other symbol? But yeah, y'all have y'all ever seen anything like this before? But let me know down in the comments below, y'all. Wow, that's crazy. Let's get it. Peace in.
It's like electromagnetic force that Nikola Tesla discovered using crystals that power electricity for miles for free until his methods was captured and used to make profit.
I've got it lined up at a tree there, so I'm going to go full forward, and it's just going to weave its way through the trees.
What's the thing sticking out of the side?
It's a speaker, so we've got 4 attachment ports. The speaker enables you to talk to people on the ground.
What's up?
You know, get somebody's attention. Miami Beach Police Department.
They requested that?
You could fly this thing out 10 miles. The point-to-point radio connection would go away, but it would just keep going based on cellular. With your background, you can imagine this being a useful capability on the battlefield. From a soldier's perspective, it removes the mystery of what's happening around you. You can go out a couple miles, know exactly who's coming, what they've got, where they're moving. It's now showing me on screen all the people that it sees. It's locked onto you. Move over there. Like, it'll just keep staring. We're about to ship a feature where it'll actually, like,
man, that drone is so cool. I wonder how much they are.
A lot of the stuff that he was talking about in the 1980s, in terms of the design of these crafts, how they manipulate gravity around them, and how they move through space with a very strange propulsion system.
And when it was running, it produced a gravitational field of its own. Now, this is something that we can't do. We can't produce any gravity.
And I think Marco Rubio talking about this and explaining, like, this is what I've been told, this is what I know, this is a real thing.
Something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours.
Vehicles the size of a football field that are moving through the ocean at 500 knots. We have no idea where they're going.
It's just like, once they pull the kid and the BQM out of the water, this object descends back into the depths.
Slowly but surely removing that layer of ridicule.
I just hope, in my lifetime we get the information transparency we want.
And I found Rip Van Winkle. Giant version of him. How big this friggin' dude is. That is incredible. He's a big dude.
What he's doing?
Wow.
Just sleeping in the woods.
That's freaking amazing.
Alright, leave him alone.
He is huge. Wow.
Imagine if that thing wakes up. Ooh. What is that? It's like some Indiana Jones stuff.
This is a crazy thing for an FBI guy to post.
The former FBI director, James Comey, he just put up that tweet a couple weeks ago, posted a picture of these seashells. He's like, was at the beach and found this crazy cool formation of seashells, and it said 8647, like basically to get rid of Trump, or it was like a threat of like, we're gonna kill Trump kind of thing. Instant backlash. You're an FBI director. He's like, I had no idea that's what it meant.
I didn't know. He said, I just found it. So people are freaking out about that, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? When he posted that, it had been 8,647 days since 9/11.
To the day.
That's a bizarro
Check it.
coincidence.
It's crazy.
Like a crazy coincidence.
I mean, how was that an accident?
A former FBI director.
Weird.
Did you know
It's
that
never a coincidence.
you can easily remove your personal information from Google search results? Check this out. First, enter your name and state, then click the little 3 dots, press remove result. From here, press the shows my personal contact info, and then enter the information that is displayed on the page that you're requesting removal from. Press continue, and enter all information, including a phone number, your name. The important part is this is not removing it from the data broker themselves. I'll get more into that in another video, but this will remove it from Google listings. So stay safe.
But the CT scan has one more surprise for Alejandro. Shamai's ethnicity.
Well, they have just told me that Shamai had Nubian features, which means that their ruling family was probably Nubian, and that was unexpected.
Examining Shamai's anatomy closely, the thickness of his bones and the shape of his nasal cavity, the anthropologists think he was a black African, likely from neighboring Nubia. A huge revelation that challenges the prevailing image of the Egyptian ruling class.
We always thought the ancient Egyptian elite were Mediterranean type, and in this sense, Shammai is representing the society of the frontier, in which different ethnic groups were mixed. At the end, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Shammai was Egyptian.
Okay. Good to know.
As we cleared the face of the beam, unmistakable features of an animal-headed guardian began to emerge. A creature not matching any Mesoamerican deity or Mesopotamian deity that we've seen. It's an elongated head, it's got a narrow snout, it's carved orbital cavity. This is definitely not Aztec, Toltec, Olmec, Egyptian, yet they mirrored iconography across all civilizations, which is an interesting thing, especially with the fall of Babel and the story of Babel with our dialects and languages and some of the things that happened, pre-flood biblically and that were described, but also the lack of. I think it's really an interesting thing to see some of these type of depictions, as you can see here, of stuff that we've maybe only breached upon in our mythology and or ancient texts. This was definitely not the work of a local artisan or a colonial era imitation. This is a large-scale stone piece of engineering using tools and a geopolymer technique that is far beyond what we have today. And it's not really something that we can correlate with the Toltec, Aztec, Zapotec, the Mixtec, Teotihuacano, any of these type of styles.
It's insane to see how some of this epic stuff is buried just a few feet down. Is it a vampire? I call Cap.
This is real footage from Beverly Hills in 2002. The man on the left in the blue suit is Buzz Aldrin, one of the first humans to walk on the moon. Now, the man with the microphone is a filmmaker who spent decades claiming that the moon landing was faked. He decides he's going to corner Buzz in public. He shoves a Bible towards him, and he swears that he walked on the moon. And after minutes of insults and shouting, Buzz, who was 72 years old at the time, finally loses his patience and, well, does this.
Away from me. You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
You see, the famous Apollo 11 mission where man first walked on the moon is one of the most famous conspiracy theories in the world. And there are claims that it never actually happened, and instead was actually filmed on a set in a secret location in the US, directed by none other than Stanley Kubrick. Yes, the director that did The Shining and 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a real theory. This is episode 1 into a deep dive into the moon landing conspiracy. And in today's episode, we got to look at the backstory. The year was 1969, and the world was completely divided by the Cold War. It was a decades-long standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations were racing to not only prove who could dominate Earth, but also space. And the Soviets were already dominating this. They launched Sputnik 1, which was the first satellite into orbit. They sent Yuri Gagarin, who was the first human, into space. They even performed the very first spacewalk, but not a walk on the moon. The Soviets were crushing it. So, when President John F. Kennedy promised that the U.S. would land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the decade, it was no longer a dream, and the plan was put into action. This was something that the U.S. had to absolutely achieve. So, billions of dollars were poured into NASA's Apollo program. They hired thousands of scientists, engineers, and pilots who worked around the clock. Against all odds, in the year 1969, the world watched Apollo 11 launch towards the moon. Once again, a massive thing for the US to do. They needed to prove that democracy could out-innovate communism. Well, on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped off the lunar module and said these famous words.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
But when that moment happened, it became not just a win for the United States, but one of humanity's proudest moments. However, when something looks so perfect as this did, people will start to look for cracks. And over the next decade, they actually found plenty. In this series, we're going to explore both sides of this conspiracy. In the next video, we're going to look at all the evidence of why this actually didn't happen and why it may have been faked. And then in part 3, we're going to look at all the evidence in science saying that, well, they actually did land on the moon. But for now, this was the climate of the world and where it all began. So if you guys want to follow this, please be sure to like and follow for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Hey, punch well deserved in my opinion.
In Iraq, they told us 75% of you are going to be dead or evac'd out of here in the next 48 hours. So make peace with God. I said, all right, Lord, when I get back, I'm not going to live like a scumbag. I'm going to be a good guy. And I really kind of forgot about that. And so I'm driving, picking up my bike, and my platoon sergeant was in the car with me. And there's a semi-truck over here. It's raining. I start passing this guy to the right. And as soon as I get next to this guy, I start to hydroplane. I'm sliding sideways towards the guardrail. 2 wheels hit that guardrail perfectly. And I was airborne, spin upside down, and slammed. And my first thought was, I used to watch the Dukes of Hazzard. This thing's going to blow at any minute. I'm upside down, and I looked at my platoon sergeant, who was completely out. I thought, I'm dead. I'm up like this, and right next to my head was a little Gideon's Bible. At that moment, I looked. That was the first time I heard the voice of God. He said, I remember what you said. Remember our little deal we made?
Amen, brother. God not only hears you, but knows you every move. He's the ultimate seal.
There was a man called Stanley Kubrick, the great filmmaker.
I think I've heard of him.
Stanley Kubrick was an insider, and he wanted to expose it. And his last movie was called Eyes Wide Shut.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Now, Eyes Wide Shut, he died very, very soon after it was presented to executives at the film company and was given no fanfare whatsoever when it came out.
It
just disappeared.
The hell out of it as well.
Yes, they did. They took 25 minutes out of it, which he refused to do. Now, he filmed a ritual with Tom Cruise in it, in which I only know more recently was a Rothschild mansion. And what he filmed is a mild version of what goes on, because he knew. And you had the colors. You have most people in the ritual in Eyes Wide Shut were in black. The main guy was in red. Here we go again.
Yeah.
You had the orgies going on, and you had the people being killed, the lady being killed. But that was such a mild version. I don't know what was in the 25 minutes they took out, mind, because the real version is that there's blood everywhere.
Okay, he's the one that allegedly filmed the moon landing on Earth, of course.
2005, deer hunter Kurt Engel shot this huge creature, keeping only its 60-centimetre tail.
It just shot up and came towards me. The
DNA test revealed it was 98% certain to be a feral cat.
Well, I have never seen any feral cat, being nearly 2 meters long.
Why would they want to keep big cats a secret, though?
How do you know if someone is about to be violent?
There's 4 ways that we teach police officers to predict violence, and it uses the word COPE. So it's concealment, oxygenation, preparation, and expenditure. The first one is that the person's blading their body, and this is typically where their dominant shoulder will move away from you. Some of the others are they're looking at you, but off in the distance, just so they can kind of get you in their peripheral vision and see your entire body. Third is you cannot draw a weapon from concealment without making a 90-degree angle with your arms. But really, it's just watching the person to see if they're trying to look calm. If I know I'm about to do an attack, the adrenaline spikes inside of me, the epinephrine, and that produces a demand for oxygen. So that makes my nostrils flare, and it causes my eyes to blink more often. So I'm seeing higher stress, and I'm seeing somebody like either bounce on their feet or fidget down by their legs in a way that they weren't before. I want to watch for the little signs that a person is doing repetitive behaviors to burn off adrenaline.
Very few people know that just minutes from the Tower of London is the oldest church in the City of London, one that hides incredible treasures in its crypt. This is All Hallows by the Tower. It was founded by the Abbey of Barking in 675 AD, 300 years before the Tower of London existed. It was badly damaged during the Blitz in World War II, but this revealed some of the incredible things that were buried beneath. As you walk in, you can find the Saxon Arch. It's thought to be part of the first stone church that immediately followed the original Saxon wooden one here. But this is nothing compared to the age of the things hiding in the church crypt. Heading down these stairs, you really start to get a sense of the layers of London history that this place was built upon. In here, you have incredible hidden chambers and Roman treasures that you will struggle to find anywhere else in the city. These include one of the most perfectly preserved tessellated sections of pavement from a Roman dwelling, dating from the 2nd century. Walking further into the crypt, you will then find these 3 casts of Roman gravestones, found in and around the City of London during excavations. Each have amazing inscriptions. And the best thing about this place? It's free to enter. If you want to discover this place and thousands more just like it all across London, then check out the Wonderby app.
Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei, he came out and gave a speech today and said in the 12-day war, the Iranian nation undeniably defeated both the U.S. and the Zionists. By day 4 of the 12-day war, and by the way, like the first 24 hours, the first day and a half of the 12-day war, Iran didn't even respond. But by day 4, Israeli military officials were begging Netanyahu to call the United States and force the United States to negotiate a peace deal, a ceasefire. Netanyahu had different ideas. He forced the United States in some way or another. Some are now saying that he forced the United States to join in on the airstrikes by threatening to nuke Iran if they didn't do that. Very interesting. But this was the reality on the ground. You had IDF bases, you had Unit 8200 bases, you had all of these Mossad directorates, HQs being hit left and right. You had some of the most precious military, industrial, scientific facilities being hit. You had all of the major air bases, which were supposedly impenetrable, being hit. You had the heart of Tel Aviv being hit. And you had Israel's most precious ports and their energy infrastructure being hit with absolute ease.
Here are 5 things you didn't know about the Jonestown massacre that prove it wasn't suicide. It was murder. First, Jim Jones had been secretly drugging his followers for months before that final day. He replaced the communion wine with sedatives, training them to drink without question. Second, those armed guards weren't protecting the compound from outsiders. They were there to stop his own people from escaping once they realized what was happening.
Wow.
Third, parents were forced to poison their children first before drinking themselves. Anyone who refused got shot by the guards. Fourth, Jones himself didn't drink the cyanide like everyone else. He shot himself in the head instead, choosing a quick death while forcing 900 followers to suffer. Fifth, the whole massacre happened because Congressman Leo Ryan came to investigate abuse reports. Jones killed everyone to avoid getting exposed. This wasn't a religious suicide pact. It was a coward covering his tracks with mass murder.
He had 46 chromosomes, right?
Right.
What happens
at 48.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They discovered that chromosome number 2 was taken out. They call it an artificial mutation. They mean geneticists, fused together and 2 telomere caps put on, 1 telomere cap on each side. Who in the world took chromosome number 2 out, fused it together, and put telomere caps on it? And they say that it happened as an estimated 200,000 years ago, right at the time that Sumerian tablets say they decided to make mankind to do the labor. There's no coincidence that the tablets are aligning with modern science. And this means that a couple things. The first thing, it means that we were genetically modified. The second thing that it means is the telomere caps limit our lifespan to about 120 years max, according to Harvard scientists. Now, in the Bible, what does it say? It says that my seed shall not abide in man forever. His years shall be 120. That was taken from the Sumerian tablets, even further back than that. Thousands of years before the Bible was written, when Yahweh, a.k.a. Enlil, shows back up, sees the human beings building a tower into the heavens, copying a tower that they themselves had built. It pissed him off, and he said, wherever their hearts decide to do, they shall achieve it. My seed shall not abide in man. His years will be 120. And then he did a genetic modification at that point, I believe, with the telomeres. And he spread mankind out around the planet, and he confused their languages. He had us speaking different languages, so we couldn't collaborate. Now we're in competition, no collaboration. Divide and conquer.
And there's the Tower of Babel.
That's it. That's it, man.
So it was all done just to keep us from rising.
Yes. We were advancing too fast, and he had to slow us down. If we shorten their lifespan, then they won't have enough time. By the time they realize who they are and what power they have, they'll be dead. And see, that's...
Billy Carson is cooked.
Did you know the US builds prisons using data from black neighborhoods years before any crime happens? Lawmakers and private prison companies built a system of predictive modeling using data from black neighborhoods to plan how many cells they'd need years in advance. They tracked school test scores, dropout rates, arrest records, single-parent homes, even third-grade reading levels, not to help, but to forecast future inmates. Instead of fixing poverty, jobs, or education, they turned pain into data, and data into profit. Private prison giants like Core Civic and GEO Group made billions, while politicians wrote 3 strikes laws, mandatory minimums, and stop and frisk policies that kept the pipeline full. Once a community was labeled high risk, schools lost funding, police budgets grew, and the trap tightened, a future written before the children were even born. Today, big tech and government agencies still use these algorithms, claiming it's about safety. But the same numbers that could have predicted who needed help were used to build cells instead.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
So why do you think the world's going to be over soon?
Well, as Bill Gates said, we need 3 billion less people. And they really don't give a how we get 3 billion. If we have 3 billion less people, we don't have all these crises that we have right now.
That's where I go back to just enjoy your day, because you can't do shit about it. When there's global elite that have billions and billions and billions that they can buy off governors and judges and presidents, like there's people in control of this world, and I'm not in it. And again, unless you know those people and you're one of those. And
I do.
Well, then you might be in it. But I've never been to a meeting where they're like, all right, we're going to off a third of the population so we have an air in 100 years.
They don't talk like that. They everything's theoretical. And they put up their PowerPoint presentation and some little skinny, or 2 or 3 little skinny from Stanford, Caltech, and MIT, and Oxford. This is what could happen if this happened and this happened. And somebody in the back of the room will raise their hand. And what are the probabilities of all these things happening at once? Not self-induced. In other words, not caused. They say 0%. And what it's helped along a little. They put it nicer than that. Oh, we can make it happen 1 out of 3 times. Everybody kind of chuckles and. But I'd rather be part of that group. That's why I call everybody a meathead.
The followers of Jesus win in the end.
Charlie Kirk was killed. Many people saw it. Many people saw the actual gunshot wound because of what happened on Twitter when it got spread around, right? One of the big dangers that a human brain falls into is something called the anatomy of a conspiracy. That's why every time you see or hear a conspiracy, you kind of want to adopt a little bit of it yourself. You're like, oh, that's interesting. But it's all because of these 4 steps that make up the anatomy of a conspiracy. First, something factual has to happen. That's the first step in a conspiracy. Next thing after that is a gap in information. There must be a gap in information in order for there to be a conspiracy. And that gap of information leaves enough space for people to wonder, is that information unknown, or is that information being kept from me? Third step is something that we call speculation. Speculation is when you guess without having a reason or without having any sound hypothesis behind your speculation. The fourth step in the anatomy of a conspiracy is that a story is created based on the speculation that closes the missing information gap.
Hey Desirables, if you want to see the full episode,
find Desirable Podcast on YouTube.
Why is Larry Ellison trying to buy Warner Brothers Discovery? He just bought Paramount. Why does he want media companies? Why would he? He wants to hang out with movie stars? No. He has a fucking ego problem? What does he do now? He runs the largest data storage and processing company? Why? Well, before founding his company called Oracle, he worked on a project for the CIA called Oracle, where he was paid to build a database for the government. And so he probably has and knows how to get data on all of us. Good. I don't get how this is all somehow connected. You just said it's connected, so you must know. He also wants mass surveillance. He said citizens will be on their best behavior because we'll be recording and reporting everything that's going on. And he also said the government should consolidate all of the national data and feed it to AI. And all of this is connected how? I don't really know. It's in your head. You just have to find it. What does this have to do with owning an entertainment company? You already said it's connected. Just tell me how. Well, his data centers are the ones that OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, relies on. And if he owns the data centers, no matter what AI company pulls ahead, he'll have control over where it's all stored. So he's put himself in a position that even when the AI bubble bursts, he'll succeed no matter what. And so he's buying media companies so that he can create AI-generated content. Good. But what if no one watches it? You think he hasn't thought of that? The TikTok deal? Why? He's reported to be that leader of the group of investors making a bid to buy TikTok. More? Well, he also has the data to do hyper-targeting so that people get a tailored algorithm of AI content. And so it's about control. He wants to control the information we get through AI, the media we see. It won't be entertainment though, will it? It will be propaganda that looks like entertainment. Good. And so while everyone's focusing on what the administration's doing, Larry Ellison is quietly building this empire. The worst kings are quiet.
Time to get back into touching grass and reading books.
So this is Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. He says something that everyone's like, wait, what did you just say?
As young Americans across the country get to see all of the amazing things that the Army has done, whether it's helping with floods in North Carolina or wildfires in California, or we talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon, who's a soldier, including actually going to war and fighting to defend the freedoms that are that make our nation so great.
What? He just drops in.
An astronaut that's on the moon fighting for our freedom?
That's what he said. Hold on.
Wait.
You didn't like stammer. That was like a prepared statement.
Astronaut
Isn't that wild?
on the moon.
I mean, that's, I know.
Fighting for our freedom.
I know he probably just misspoke.
How would you rephrase that to where it made sense?
I don't know. I mean,
what? What if he's like a
ambassador?
Yeah, like an alien race up there.
Yeah,
that dude sounded like AI though.
Yeah, like people said he looked like an alien.
Oh, that is weird.
Space Force.
Of what's going to happen next. So I can't say it, but I'm telling you, I know what's going to happen next. How much metal you have in your body will affect you when this thing happens. It has to do with frequency. Okay, so that I stay safe and I can come back and I stay alive, I want to tell you something. I will give you a hint to what he showed me. It's going to happen. And you have to get rid of these metals in your body. And it could happen tomorrow. It could happen, but they're going to say it's something else. You're going to have to do your own thinking about this. I don't want to get in trouble. But just stick a piece of foil in a microwave and picture that in your body. And now you know the devil's plan. Bottom line is, you got to get this out of your body. Let's mess the devil up. Let's really mess him up.
Red Room in Thailand is a room where a child is murdered every 3 weeks. They are sacrificed. and the person that pays with the crypto gets to choose how that kid is murdered, and the other person gets to do things to them.
People online still argue that red rooms are just an urban legend, but here's the part that no one wants to talk about. Peter Scully, one of the darkest criminals ever recorded, and every single one of his clients came from the dark web. He didn't advertise it publicly, and he didn't post it on socials. They found him through encrypted spaces, the exact same places people claim that red rooms don't exist. And here's what most people don't know. His videos weren't one-off crimes. They were commissioned. People paid to choose what happened. They paid to watch it live. And that is literally the definition of a red room. Money, to be anonymous, and real harm. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below.
There are some sick individuals in this world.
Nobody builds something that big underground just for fun.
Check this out. Give me some volume on this.
The Longyu Caves, located in the village of Xian Beichun in Zhejiang Province, China, are a massive and majestic ancient underground world, as well as an ongoing mystery that has confounded scientists from every discipline that has researched them. 24 hand-carved caves encompassing a staggering 30,000 square meters have been found so far. Despite their magnitude and the work required to build them, no indication of their construction, or even their existence, has been discovered in archival sources. Despite the fact that the whole excavation involved about 1 million cubic meters of stone, there is no archaeological evidence explaining where that amount of stone went, nor is there evidence of the work being done. Furthermore, there isn't a single historical source that mentions them, which is extremely remarkable given the scope of the undertaking. Despite decades of analysis, the Longyu Caves mystery remains essentially unsolved.
I think we burrowed in. We had to. That's like an ancient survival shelter.
Well, they have them in Turkey as well. You ever hear the Tucker Carlson Nixon story?
No.
Okay, so Tucker Carlson came on my podcast and he's like, do you know that Nixon was the most popular president in history? Nixon had a vice president, Spiro Agnew. Spiro Agnew gets brought up on corruption charges, so Spiro Agnew has to resign. They bring in Gerald Ford to replace him if anything happens. Then they immediately hit him with Watergate. So Nixon did not coordinate Watergate. Watergate was coordinated by the FBI. And then they brought it to him, and what he was guilty of was saying, cover it up. They set him up. Bob Woodward was an intelligence agent, and his very first job as a reporter is Watergate. Nixon apparently had been saying, I know who killed JFK, and I know why they did it.
Do you know who Deep Throat was? Who was basically Bob Woodward's source?
I forget.
Mark Felt, who is the deputy director of the FBI.
Because I always thought, oh, Nixon was this corrupt piece of shit that was spying on his opponents. No, they set him up. And it seems to be one of the big motivations was that he was intent on releasing who killed JFK and how it was done.
He went down to the cartel.
Yeah, look what they did to Trump.
What do you think about Trump calling you and your networks terrorists? And how is this going to impact you? I had anticipated this reaction, but I didn't think that actually we don't care. We're just going to wait 4 years. It's not that deep.
Wow.
We're not going to fight them on it. We'll give them what they want to see. And we are not terrorists because there is a demand for our product. There are drug addicts all across the United States who want
hearing this right?
What we have to sell. How are we terrorizing them? We're not like ISIS or the Taliban bombing innocent people. We just supply a product that there is a demand for. And if this designation means that we have to hold off for a little while in order to protect our networks, that's exactly what we will do.
Oh yeah, the cartels are so humble. They are just supplying the need.
It's rough, man. I'm sorry you had to watch that. I just wanted you to understand how severe this actually is.
And these are little kids.
Little girls.
Little kids.
And boys.
One of the most popular games that the 764 cult is luring their victims out.
Roblox, Minecraft, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Roblox is the one that I'll focus on the most because that seems like the majority of the issues right now.
I know little kids that use that game.
There's 75 million active daily users.
I've been telling people too about what you've been telling me for at least 6 months now about 764 cult. None of their kids are off of it yet.
Yeah, most people they throw their iPad at their kid, they put them on Roblox, and like I said earlier, little cartoon characters running around the screen, no harm in it. But predators, if you've noticed,
what parent keeps their kid on there after we're telling them this?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but it's unbelievable to me, and predators hang out in spots where they can prey on victims. when they're on Roblox, and it's the largest children's game in the world, obviously
it's the largest children's game in the world.
Yeah, largest in the world. So when
largest children's game in the world doesn't want people on the platform saving kids.
That's exactly.
Listening to this, the largest video game platform in the world doesn't want to take any measures at all to save kids. In fact, they made a press release discouraging it. In your this platform money, there's millions of people that are going to listen to this, and I'm telling you, you are complicit in this shit.
Get your kids off the screens.
You said it's extremely complex. Tell us more about the plan and how much it's going to cost. Where's the money going to come from? And who's going to award the contracts? 3 questions.
I think it's going to cost a lot of money.
What's a lot of money?
The estimates are in the $50 billion range. It might be a little bit less. It might be a little bit more.
They're talking about rebuilding Gaza after we spent billions of dollars destroying it.
The money raising, we think, is the easy part. We think that happens relatively quickly. But it's the master plan, and we're working with a group of people who have been working on master plans for the last 2 years.
So there are plans already.
We have plans already. We have a master plan already.
Steve. You can't be telling them about the master plan. You can't tell them about how all of this was planned behind the scenes. Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that the massive protests that were occurring in Israel was a problem for Bibi Netanyahu? It was a problem for his government that was happening for 9 months before October 7th, that the standout orders they gave was a part of this master plan, a master plan that involved allowing Hamas to carry out a horrendous terrorist attack, which then allowed Bibi Netanyahu to claim the right to absolutely level Gaza, committing war crimes upon war crimes. Is that what you're telling us, Steve? Is that what the master plan was? And now to invest, quote unquote, $50 billion into rebuilding the infrastructure. Where is that money going to come from? Are you going to make the American taxpayers pay for it? And who's going to live there afterwards? Hint, hint. It's not going to be Americans nor Palestinians.
A master plan to build on properties they do not own.
These are no coincidence. Whether it's emulated in our technologies of present or displayed predominantly in the technologies of the old world. The same person who invented the modern microscope, Dr. Rife, utilizing this same pattern in frequency and vibrations, were able to be said to cure most cancers and other disease with just a few short sessions. Of course, the technology to that machine has all been buried, though many have tried to replicate his work in the modern times. This pattern being repeated and displayed so predominantly throughout the old world is no coincidence. They knew the healing capabilities of frequency and vibration. Question everything, friends.
Does this pattern or design have a name?
Is the moon a true reflection of our realm? One map is a supposed map of the true lands of this world.
Oh, reflection.
And the other one is an overlay of the moon. You have to admit, the similarities aren't quite striking. Now, I don't claim to know the answers to everything, but I do know certain unquestioned government organizations have been given millions of our taxpayers' money to give us nothing but CGI to show for it, while seeming to be the only government organization in history to not be allowed a single degree of scrutiny. Question everything.
He caught the CIA selling drugs in South Central LA and then exposed it on a hearing on CNN. Have you ever seen this? Jamie, pull it up.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time. Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence.
You should immediately bring that information to the Los Angeles Police Department.
Come on, man. Los Angeles Police Department. Get out of here, bro. Look, he's smiling.
I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it.
It's wild.
Rest in peace, Gary Webb.
Elon Musk's grandfather was Joshua Haldeman, who was a bigwig in something called Technocracy Inc., which got shut down. He wanted to create a society in which there were no politicians, there were no elections, there were appointed technocrats and bureaucrats. And he was a big supporter, it seems, of Hitler. The Technocracy Inc. produced a map, what they called a technate, and it went from the north of South America, including Venezuela, Trump is very focused on, Panama, Mexico, United States, Canada, and Greenland, which is kind of extraordinary when you see what's happening with current events. When Technocracy Inc. was shut down in Canada, he went to South Africa, and he was a big supporter of apartheid. Elon Musk, born in South Africa. David Sachs, the AI czar of Trump, born in South Africa. Peter Thiel, massive connections to South Africa and to what is now Namibia. Another guy called Botha was related to Pik Botha, the last foreign minister of the apartheid regime. And then they all come together in America, together.
How comes they haven't shut David down? Serious question. Seems rather untouchable.
I get the stuff, and it's acknowledged that's what he did.
Oh, wow.
But I think that's where they get. That's why you can't disconnect them from that culture. I think they're part of it, but they have a gap, and the gap's probably due to cataclysm.
Right.
Probably knocking them back to the Stone Age and hunter-gatherer. And then when they came back, they had some knowledge and some artifacts and some understanding, but they didn't have the capability.
But here's the craziest thing about Bill Clinton. So he goes to Princeton, instantly he gets an SA charge, if you know what I'm talking about, the SA charge, right? So you study these guys, they have that thing that happens early on in their life, so now they got something they can control you with.
Yeah, especially when you're younger, more vulnerable, and it's like, listen, we'll promise you all these things.
Yeah.
Do what we need you to do, pull the right triggers, we'll take care of you.
So the investigation of the JFK assassination was done by the Warren Committee. There was one guy in the entire committee that said, no, this isn't the real story. One guy voted no. That guy one day got in a plane and was never heard from again. He disappeared. Do you know who drove him to the airport?
No, what?
Bill Clinton.
No way.
Holy yes. Shoot. Yeah.
The Clintons, man.
Dude.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, dude. It's really crazy if you study it, because everything is data, dude.
Yeah.
Can they compromise you sexually? Are you a psychopath? Would you just commit horrible crimes against your own family just to get ahead? And most of these people would do it and not even think twice about it.
Oh, gosh, that's so evil.
One of the gentlemen who had the codes to arm nukes testified. He literally got up to the mic and said that these UFOs showed up in broad daylight. They deactivated the nukes, and he was then told to go in and then, of course, reactivate the nuclear codes. But they didn't just do it at that flight. They call these places flights, these nuclear flights. They're way out in the middle of nowhere. They did it at flights all around the world that were controlled by the U.S. military. And people around the world had to go then and go back in and reactivate the codes. So they were sending us a message.
Never seen before photos of Epstein Island have been released by the House of Democrats, but actually James O'Keefe released these months ago, but they're still very interesting to look at, so let's take a look. The first picture, actually the most creepiest one, is an operating room, and there's a lot of masks of old people on the wall, and I can't imagine who these people are. I can't even imagine this was actually an operating room, because this was like a fantasy island vacation spot for really weird and powerful people, so only God knows what actually happened in this room. Second of all, we have this shower with a bunch of steps, and it looks like it turned into a storage room probably after he got arrested. But I mean, given the context of what happened at this island, I can't imagine it was good things. And then you have a telephone with a bunch of different names on it, and some of the names are redacted. I doubt we'll ever see these names. Maybe James O'Keefe knows, because this is probably the most we're ever going to get out of Epstein Island or the files. We have Darren, Rich, Mike, Patrick, and Larry's cell phone numbers here on his phone, and we just have a regular room, also eerie given the context of what happened in here. And then you have some other footage of the property and some of the rooms, and not really much else is going on here other than a really nice mansion on the Virgin Islands, but hopefully we get more information eventually.
Yes, Terror Island, not Fantasy Island. Poor children. I cannot imagine their suffering.
There's a documentary of this guy who went into Mayan territory, and he was specifically told, do not take home any of these rocks. These rocks are very, very spiritually connected rocks. They were in a cave. It's on Amazon Prime. Crazy documentary. And he specifically was told many, many times, do not take these home. You can touch them. Don't take them home. There was thousands of years of tradition with these rocks, and they were used for spiritual practices and trainings. He took one home. 4 months later, he had severe, severe bone cancer, and he died, and the rock was hidden. He couldn't find the rock. So through his process of getting bone cancer, he was looking for the rock to give it back because he knew why he got sick. He couldn't find it. And he died. And while he died at his deathbed, he started having dreams of Mayan kids playing with these stones, doing little things with these stones. And he couldn't understand the dreams, but he told his family. A year after he died, his family found the rocks. They traveled to the land to return the rocks. And one of the shamans there told them the rock that your son took was one of the rocks that the children used to play with. And it just goes to show you, right? Curses, energies, all this shit is real. You can open up portals that you don't know what you're messing with when you don't have integrity, you don't listen to the rules, when you fuck with things.
Was the rock contaminated with radioactive material or something?
Vatican Bank, God's secret fortune. The Vatican preaches poverty, but behind its walls sits one of the richest and most secretive banks in the world. For decades, billions flowed through the Institute for works of religion. Money from dictators, mafia bosses, and secret CIA operations. In the 1980s, banker Roberto Calvi, nicknamed God's Banker, was found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London. Officially suicide, but his pockets were stuffed with bricks. A mafia signature. Documents later revealed he was laundering money through the Vatican for weapons deals in Latin America. And when it all collapsed, the Vatican declared itself morally, but not legally, responsible. If the church truly served God, why did it run like the world's darkest bank? Follow Holy Control Files for the truths faith was built to cover.
They didn't mean to change history, but one baker's mistake in an overheated oven created something the world had never tasted before. One morning, the ovens burned hotter than usual, and the dough began reacting in a way no one expected. Instead of burning flat, the dough rose. It puffed with air, as if alive. No one understood why. It was soft inside, filled with tiny holes. Something in last night's dough had changed without anyone noticing. That leftover dough had fermented overnight, filling it with air. When it hit the hot oven, it transformed everything.
This time, they knew what they were doing, and the dough rose again. The first controlled leavened bread in history.
From one overheated oven came a food that would feed empires. This is how bread, as we know it, was born.
Is there anything people can do to clean their blood or clean their system out with prior vaccinations?
Yeah, so Dr. McCullough formulated an over-the-counter capsule that has nattokinase, bromelain, and thymulin in it, which are very safe. And these are ways of binding spike protein and carrying it out of the body. You can actually see urinary spike protein levels drop after taking these, and they're inexpensive. They're regular over-the-counter, and there are formulations for spike protein detox. You can even Google spike protein detox, and you'll find ones with nattokinase, bromelain, and the thymulin in them. Those are the higher quality spike protein detoxifications. And you can do pre and post urine spike protein analyses, and you can actually see that you've reduced it.
Wow.
Let's do a deep dive into the Shapiro family. If you weren't aware, in 1965, NUMEC, who was run by Zalman Shapiro, keep that name in mind because Ben Shapiro, they somehow lost 100 kilograms or 220 pounds of highly enriched uranium. And for those of you who know what uranium is used for, the U.S. government review found that NUMEC had the single largest HEU inventory loss of any U.S. commercial site. Hundreds of pounds of uranium just vanishes. New Mexico had 269 kilograms of HEU inventory loss, which is material unaccounted for, before 1968. And then get this, another 76 kilograms after 1968. So that is a total of 345 kilograms across its operating history. For those of you that don't use kilograms, it is 760 pounds, which I'm sure Ben Shapiro would have a fun time talking about. Do you now see what is really going on?
A shocking
The sum of all fears.
video from India has gone viral on the internet, where people charge any device from a stone. And the most interesting thing is this stone was found just 10 kilometers from the mysterious Kailasa temple. And this is not a coincidence. The thing is that this temple is known for its ancient mechanisms with perfectly crafted small details, and scientists still cannot explain how an ancient civilization was able to create this without modern technology. It is also the largest temple in the world, carved from a single solid stone, with no room for even the slightest mistake. According to an Indian legend, the Kailasa temple was built in 7 days. Today, to construct such a temple, it would take about 9 such tunneling machines and more than 60 days just to process the stone. But the most interesting thing is that recently, a video appeared on the internet in which the author claimed that this technology was passed down to him from his ancestors. And in ancient times, people used laser technology to process such structures. And the source of energy for them were special stones, like the ones at the beginning of the video.
They didn't create it with modern technology. They created it with advanced technology.
Have you noticed that always have the butterfly tattoo? So this is something that Gary, the numbers guy, he taught me. His theory is that a jinn possesses these people or a spirit, and to manifest in that person's being and communicate to the other people that are possessed, it marks itself with a butterfly tattoo so that other demons and people can see that they've also been corrupted. And I don't know what it is, bro, but every single time there's some demonic always has a butterfly tattoo.
There's real evidence that there's structures under the pyramids that might go as deep as 2 kilometers.
That look like an energy grid.
With columns and coils around the columns and like, what?
Tubes, huge tubes that are descending underneath. And we have noticed that these tubes has a sort of spiral nature.
He says tens of meters is where they're high confidence, but he says 1,000 meters.
Just the columns.
Yeah. It's just the columns, yeah.
We have measured approximately over 1 kilometer of depth.
Over a kilometer
yes,
of depth.
Over,
It's insane.
That's so wild.
It's wild.
And there's something underneath them.
And there's something, is that, foundation. Yeah.
But in all of the ancient sources of information, there is never any mention of white humans. I had just assumed that white skin was simply another variant created by the Anunnaki, but I was wrong. Did you know that white people, or Caucasians, did not appear on planet Earth until somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago?
So you have probably been taught that the British, after they lose the colonies, the 13 colonies, they go, why are we doing this slavery thing? It's awful. Oh, and they found their humanity in this great moment, and they jettisoned slavery and became the champions of abolition. Yay! Anyway, so I'll tell you the real story. The British lose the 13 colonies, and now they're like, oh, well, we'll still make a bunch of money selling them slaves, because, right, the British were the #1 slave traders. And then they noticed something shocking, how much money the French were making out of Saint-Domingue. And they began to realize if they ended slavery and slave trade, they would destroy France's ability to make money in Saint-Domingue. Now you gotta remember, just a few years earlier, in the 7 Years' War, which lasted 9 years, 1754 to 1763, the French lost New France and Canada. They lost a huge chunk of North America. The British thought that was it. And now all of a sudden there's Saint-Domingue, and they're like, wait, what? No, we thought we already took the French out. How do we take them out? And then they go, oh, let's get rid of slave trade. It'll cripple that colony. So they become fierce. You know, there's a whole section in England that's fiercely proposing abolition. And in fact, they're even coming over to France and talking to the revolutionaries and going, well, while you're doing this, why don't you do abolition? And that's one of the reasons why it happened so quickly. 1794 is really quick when you think about it, right? The French dumped slavery 5 years after the revolution started.
Did England abolish slavery in 1833 and France abolished it way even during the, what's his name, Louis the 16th? There were no slave in France. I might be mistaken.